Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to England once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a couple of times before, albeit I've only done one solo brewery beer review from these guys, or one dedicated review I guess I could say, and the other time they featured on the channel was part of a collaboration with Stigbeer. So this will be the third appearance for this brewery on the channel I guess, but only my second solo brewery beer review from them. So yeah, curious to see how this one turns out. I've wanted to try a few more beers from this brewery for quite a while, so I was glad that I was able to get a hold of this one today. So for this review then, we are going to go down to London once again, Bermondsey to be specific, and we're having a look at another beer from Brew By Numbers. So this one is the 55 double IPA, Mosaic and Nelson Sauvin. It comes in at, I believe, 8.2% ABV, and I think you know what style this one is. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out, and hopefully it's another nice beer. So yeah, like I said, I've been wanting to try a few more beers from Brew By Numbers for quite a while. They had an Amarillo double IPA a couple of months back that I really wanted to try and get, but unfortunately when I went to Kiosk in Copenhagen it was sold out. So yeah, never got to try that one, but glad that I'm finally able to review something from them after quite some time actually. So maybe the next time I'm home I might do a direct from the brewery order from these guys or something like that. But yeah, definitely curious to see how this beer turns out. Nice to return to them, as I said, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So yeah, let's go for it then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brew By Numbers before, and hopefully we can add some more to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite a lot at the moment because I am enjoying a little bit of time at home in the motherland of Scotland, and of course these English beers are very accessible to me when that happens. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Brew By Numbers. So as I've mentioned to you already, Brew By Numbers are based in Bermondsey in London, and they were founded back in 2012 by Dave Seymour and Tom Hutchings. So apparently Dave and Tom met on a rock climbing tour in China, and then after this they travelled Asia together. But Tom went back to the UK after that Asia tour, and then Dave ended up in Cairns in Queensland in Australia, and this was where he encountered the Blue Sky Brewery. But soon after he moved to New Zealand and bought a home brewing kit and just got away, you know, just went and experimented a lot with different things. But Tom had apparently always been interested in food because he came from Ludlow in Shropshire, and apparently has this kind of town has quite a culinary reputation actually. But he's a long-term friend of Toby Munn, who's involved at Kernel, and he visited Dave in Australia and tried the craft beer and was then hooked himself. But when Dave got back from New Zealand, they started planning for their own brewery together, which was pretty cool. But when they started, they were part-time and held down other jobs. Tom was a freelance sound engineer while Dave trained as a barista and worked with coffee after learning that he hated working in kitchens. But the brewing started in 2011, and they were helped a lot by Toby from Kernel and then also Andy Smith from Partisan Brewing. But they wanted to stick to their home brewing roots and to continue to produce a lot of different beers, and they've done this very successfully over the years. Over the course of 2020, they expanded their capacity to 5,000 hectolitres, and they now have 2 tap rooms. The original one is at 79 Enid Street, and they've got a new tasting room at number 75 as well, from what I understand. They've also got their Peck and Barrel store, which is where they have their barrel aging programme and produce their sour beers as well. But apparently they're also looking at relocating to a bigger brewery as well actually. So yeah, that is your kind of brief history of Brew By Numbers. But their numbering system, I notice, has changed. The original one, the first 2 digits used to indicate the style number of the beer, and then the latter 2 numbers were the number of the version of this style. So you used to have 2 numbers on this side, a line, and then 2 numbers on the other one. But I noticed they've changed it. So this one is simply called, 55 double IPA, and then it has the hops in it. So they have changed their numbering system a little bit with this. But as of January 2021, when I'm producing this review for you, according to Untappd, they've produced around 130 different kinds of beer. So yeah, they usually release a couple every month from what I gather, and yeah, I've been wanting to try a few of these over the last little while, but quite recently I think it's only within the last few months I believe that they've changed the numbering system that they always used to have. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Brew By Numbers for the moment. These guys are very, very well respected, and this is a place that I definitely hope to hit up with my friend Craig from Kent Beer Reviews. We were talking about this, that we want to go to Kernel and to Brew By Numbers to do some out and about filming. So yeah, that's definitely something that's on the cards for the future. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. If you want to learn more about Brew By Numbers, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on the can here before we open up. As you can see, it is quite cool. This is going to be one of these ones that annoys the camera because of the silver shininess of it, but yeah, really nicely presented. It does tell you a little bit about the beer on the back as well. So here it says, Brew By Numbers, utilising a hefty addition of classic American hop Mosaic and expressive New Zealand hop Nelson Sauvin. This hazy double IPA is an explosion of bright fruit flavours. Mosaic lays the foundation with waves of ripe tropical fruit alongside a fresh berry aroma. Nelson Sauvin adds depth with flavourings of white grape, subtle grassy notes and refined fruity edge. A generous oat addition softens the profile, resulting in a beer that is juicy, full-bodied and smooth. So yeah, pretty interesting, I have to say. I've always thought Mosaic was more of a kind of tangerine orangey hop rather than berry-like, to be honest with you. But yeah, as you can see on the top of the can there, that is the Brew By Numbers symbol, which is pretty cool. But yeah, 440ml can, this one. I got this beer from All Good Beer, which is a little web shop down in Hackney in London. So yeah, unfortunately, this is one of the breweries that the House of Trembling Madness don't seem to get a hold of. I would love it if I could get Brew By Numbers from them as well, but I'm not sure exactly why do that, because I mean, House of Trembling Madness has one of the best selections around, so I don't know why Brew By Numbers isn't one of them. It's just a bit strange. But yeah, let's get this guy out then and we will get on with the tasting. Very, very curious to see how this beer turns out actually. So yeah, let's get it out and into the glass. 8.2% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, double IPA. So yeah, let's go for it. Let's try this one. And I just rinsed out this glass as well, but I'm getting the carbonation sticking to the side of the glass once again. That's a bit annoying. There we go. Very nice. Very nice looking beer, I have to say. So yes, there we go. So yeah, as you can see, this beer has poured a lovely, very rich orangey colour, I have to say. That looks absolutely beautiful. But as you can see, the beer is poured with just a little bit over a finger of, I would say, a frothy, kind of cream coloured head. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and I guess I rinsed out the glass just before doing this video actually, so that's a bit strange. But yeah, there are one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but you can see quite a few bubbles going up towards the bottom of that head there. But in terms of its colour, I would say that this one, it looks like a very kind of mixed tropical fruit juice actually. It's got a lovely kind of orangey hue to it, I have to say, a nice kind of rich ambery hue, and maybe it's got a kind of brown sugary orientated malt to it, or maybe they've kind of done a little bit of a longer boil. So remember, the colour of your beer is mainly down to the colour of your beer is mainly down to 1, the type of malts that you use, and 2, the length of the boil that you have in the when you're doing the wort. So usually an IPA like this will undergo a boil between like 70 and 90 minutes, and if you do, you know, the longer you boil the beer, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker colour. It's basically that. But yeah, this one I think might well have some kind of brown sugary orientated malt in it, but it could also just be a little bit of a longer boil, who knows. But the level of haze on this beer is pretty impressive, but it might well be the darker colour that's kind of given that impression. But it looks very, very nice actually. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see there is a good level of haze to that. It's dependent on a few things, usually the malt, the kind of ratio of oats and wheat and things like that in there. Those are usually the two things. Theoretically speaking, as you go up the scale, it should get more and more hazy, but that's not always the case, because you do have other things to consider, like, you know, the interactions between the yeast and the hops and stuff like this as well. So, and also the reaction between the yeast and the wheat, from what I gather too. So yeah, definitely looks like an interesting beer, this one. Lovely kind of rich colour. So yeah, I think this one should be very, very nice. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. Let's have a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. does smell really nice actually. Straight away with this beer, it just smells very, very smooth and very, very juicy actually. So yeah, the aroma out of this I think is absolutely lovely. So straight away with this one, you get a nice kind of smooth, soft white bready kind of thing in there. You get that really kind of nice soft white bready kind of thing, which is that kind of forms the backbone of the beer. But the more you smell this one, you can tell that it does lean towards that oaty side of things, like they're saying. If you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply, you can get a little bit. You can get a little bit of wheaty bitiness out of this one, but yeah, this is a very kind of soft, white bready, barley malt orientated beer, but with quite a lot of oat in it as well for me. So yeah, this one I think might be right up my street. I quite like the oaty leaning ones, I have to say, but it just depends what I'm in the mood for. I like trying different things, as you know. But yeah, the malty base in this one comes across really nicely. There is a good little bit of brown sugar coming out of this one as well. There's a nice sort of there's a very nice kind of little kind of, brain's not working, there's a nice little bit of a kind of Werther's Original type aroma coming out of this beer, that soft kind of butter candy type thing. So yeah, I really like that about this beer for sure. It's got just a little bit of that, and that'll be the alcohol aromas coming out of it, which is great. So yeah, the aroma from this beer I think is absolutely lovely from the malty side of things. So take a little bit of time and just ponder that over. But on the hoppy side of things, you've got a nice green component to the beer as well. There's a little touch of earthiness to this one from the Mosaic. Absolutely, but then you've got quite a nice bright floral aromaticity to this beer. I wouldn't describe it as being overly deep and you know, kind of resinous or anything like that. It is just a nice, quite bright floral aromaticity. But then at the front of the nose, you've got a good little bit of a kind of grassy quality in there as well, which is nice. And then you've got all these kind of oily, juicy fruits actually. So yeah, just take a little bit of time, and and look at that as well. So for me, the fruity side of things, you've got that big kind of oily, orangey, tangerine character from the Mosaic. There's maybe a little touch of like pineapple or something there. Sometimes you can get a little bit of that from Mosaic, but for me, this beer really leans towards that tangerine, orangey note. But you also get those lovely kind of white, green, grapey characters, almost gooseberry-like from Nelson Sauvin as well. So I mean, if you know these two hops, and I do know them quite well, having had countless beers with them in it, but if you know these hops quite well, you will enjoy the aroma of this, and you're picking up exactly what you'd expect from them. Tangerine oranges from the Mosaic, and then a lovely kind of, how would you say, just a lovely sort of white, green, grapey kind of thing from the Nelson Sauvin. So yeah, the aroma of this beer, I have to say, is very, very nice actually. So big thumbs up to Brew By Numbers for the aroma of this beer. Take a bit of time to ponder that over, as I said, but we are going to have a taste of this one now and see how we get on. So yeah, this one is the 55 double IPA. Which order is it in? Mosaic and Nelson. A New England Hazy double IPA, whatever you want to call it, coming in at 8.2% ABV from Brew By Numbers in Bermondsey down in London. Let's get stuck into this one. My first review from these guys in quite some time. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, that is pretty damn solid, I have to say. So thumbs up to Brew By Numbers on this one. They've pulled off very, very solid beer, I have to say. Yeah, this one's a really lovely, smooth, and actually very, very drinkable New England double, I have to say. Yeah, it's kind of what you would expect, to be honest. This one's got a really nice kind of sweetness to it, actually. It's almost a little bit kind of savoury in a way, which is quite interesting. But yeah, this one gets a thumbs up from me. I like this, actually. I do wish I'd got to try the Amarillo double IPA, because I think that was a West Coaster, if I remember rightly. I was quite gutted that I missed that one. But I do look forward to trying some more beers from these guys over the next little while. I hope that I can get some through like Kiosk in Copenhagen or something like that. But this one is very, very nice actually. So yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this beer then. So straight away with this beer, you get that nice kind of soft white bready quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. But you actually feel that the oats in this beer are quite concentrated. This one does have a wee bit of a kind of boozy edge to the oats in this one. So yeah, soft kind of white bready notes underneath, but at the same time it feels quite compressed and almost concentrated in a sense. So yeah, that goes right across the kind of middle. It goes right across the kind of middle third of your palate, but then you can feel that nice kind of thick oaty layer just sitting on top of the kind of white bread in the middle of your palate, and it just feels like really quite concentrated. And in the very centre of your tongue, it's got a big kind of, it does have a big kind of booziness in there. So I like how that kind of brown sugary element goes together in this one. It is like a kind of Werther's Original type quality there. You get that right in the middle of your tongue, and so the boozy hit of this beer comes out quite nicely. And this is something I've said about double IPAs for quite a little while. I do like it when they've got a little bit of a kind of boozy kick to them, to be honest with you, and it lets you know, yeah, this is a double IPA, because quite often a number of them just kind of cover up the alcohol. Yeah, a number of them just kind of cover up the alcohol and take it from there. So I like that. I do like them to have just a little bit of bite to them, to let you know, yeah, this is a little bit more boozy. I don't like the ones, well, I wouldn't say that it's not that I don't like them, I just prefer it when it lets you know, yeah, this is a double IPA. But yeah, the malty, the middle of your palate, the malty base in the middle of your palate here is pretty nice actually, so yeah. But yeah, the I do like how this one goes together, absolutely. So as you go towards the border region between that middle third and back third of your palate, there's a little bit of a kind of bread crusty grainy kind of vibe in there, but then yeah, as you go into that back part of your palate, you can feel a nice little bit of a thicker kind of wheaty quality in there. It has a few kind of grainy elements to it as well, which is quite interesting. It's a little bit more kind of like bread crusty in that back third of your palate, maybe even a little bit kind of wheaty, maybe even a little bit more kind of bitey in a sense. But yeah, you get a little bit of a kind of bread crusty type quality on that back third of your tongue, and that is the wheaty element to this beer. So the malt base in this one for me is actually quite interesting how it goes together, but I think this is a really solid double IPA from the malty side of things. It's quite different to the other ones that I've had in recent times, but yeah, I certainly like how this beer goes together. Absolutely lovely stuff. Yeah, so yeah, it's a really nice take on the New England Double IPA from me, and it's kind of got everything I would want, to be honest. I like the ones that are a little bit more kind of oaty and sweet like this as well. And remember, there's quite a few different directions you can take a New England IPA, and you can take them to be more, you know, you can make them a little bit more kind of wheaty and bitey, you can make them a little bit more rye orientated, you can make them a little bit more kind of yeasty and farmhousey. You know, you can make them a little bit more kind of brown sugary orientated. I'm forgetting which ones I've not mentioned, but yeah, there are quite a few directions that you can take the malty base in this style, and this one is even a little bit different from that. It's got a bit of the kind of breadiness, the barley malt orientation, but then also just a wee bit of sweetness and bread crusty qualities to it. So yeah, this one is quite unique for me in that sense compared to others that I've reviewed. But yeah, let's focus on the hoppy side of things then. So in the back corners of the palate there is a little touch of earthiness to this one. As you move further along the side of the palate then, it does develop a little bit of a herbal quality, but then quite quickly it becomes nice and big and floral and aromatic. I would say it's quite a deep floral aromaticity. I don't find it overly spicy or anything like that, and it's definitely not pine resinous, but it just has a nice little bit of a kind of floral, aromatic, almost zestiness on that kind of on the two front corners of the palate. But then yeah, around the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is a little bit lighter and more grassy in my mind, and then behind that of course you've got these lovely big kind of juicy fruity qualities to the beer as well. So yeah, let's have a little look at the juicy fruity side of this beer. So yeah, as I always say, on that front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And so for me, if you go to that border region between front third and middle third of your palate, it does have a nice little bit of kind of, again, a little bit of a kind of breadiness underneath that there. A little bit bread crusty, to be honest with you. But yeah, as you move further forward into that kind of middle, into the back of that front part of your palate, it does have a wee bit of a kind of citrusy note to it. So yeah, when you take it in, it does have a wee bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty quality there, but I think most of the fruit actually comes out a little bit further forward on this one. So it's almost like the back of that front third of your tongue is just a little bit kind of sweet, almost just like a little bit butter candy, where there's original like, which is unusual. But then as you reach the kind of front 2/3 or front half of that front third of your tongue, kind of follow that if you can. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense to me, but yeah. As you get towards the front part of that front third of your tongue, you get the lovely big kind of, you get that mix of that big oily tangerine note from the Mosaic, and you also get you know, that big lovely kind of white green grapey sort of thing, almost gooseberry like flavour from the Nelson Sauvin. I mean, these two hops in this are giving you a lovely, just oily, fruity character, and both of them kind of linger into the aftertaste actually. So I really like how all of this how everything goes together in this one, so it gets a big thumbs up from me in that sense. This beer, I like how it's got a little bit more of a kind of brown sugary element to it. I like the breadiness that it has, and also the kind of oily fruits, I think, go down very, very well. So yeah, big thumbs up to Brew By Numbers for this one. I think they've done an awesome job with this beer, and it certainly just kind of hits the spot for me. You guys know I love Nelson Sauvin, and I love the kind of orangey leaning IPAs as well, and this one, pardon me, has a little bit of both. So yeah, that was mainly the reason I bought this one, because I knew that I liked this hop combination. So yeah, I thought it'd be cool to have a hop combination I liked, and a brewery that I've wanted to try again for quite a little while. So yeah, I think this one did turn out to be a good choice to buy, because I have enjoyed it. So yeah, let's look at the mouthfeel then to round off the review. So yeah, mouthfeel wise, I would describe this beer as being at the kind of top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is fairly smooth on this one, and I would say that overall it's got a balance between being wet and oily, this beer, in terms of its mouthfeel. It is quite finely balanced in that sense. So the malty side of the beer, as I say, is quite smooth, but it's got a bit of oiliness and booziness to it as well. But yeah, overall I would say that this is quite it's got a balance. Its mouthfeel overall is quite balanced between being wet and a little bit more oily. So yeah, but yeah, in terms of hoppy bitterness, I think this beer's only about 40 IBUs at most. There's not a lot of bitterness to this one, but yet 40 IBUs is pretty standard for a New England double IPA. 30 is for the regular IPAs, and then maybe 50 for the triples. So yeah, I think about 40 IBUs in this one. The malt base is really quite smooth and a little bit thicker and a bit more oily, but then you've got all these kind of big oily fruity characters in the beer as well. So yeah, let's just kind of leave it there with this one. I think it's got a really nice kind of quite well-rounded mouthfeel, a little bit wet, a little bit oily. It just kind of has everything I'd want, and it suits the hops and the malty side of things very, very well. So yeah, another solid beer from Brew By Numbers. Is this the best one they do? I have no idea, because they've done so many beers, but I think the next review I do from these guys will have to be something a little bit darker, or a lager beer or something like this, because I think it's all been paleos and IPAs and stuff I've tried from them so far. So like I said, I might need to do a direct from the brewery order the next time I come back to Scotland, and just try a few different things from these guys and see how they do the different ends of the spectrum. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. I think this has been a really nice one to review, so I hope that you guys have enjoyed my take on it as well, and it's been very nice to return to Brew By Numbers for the first time in maybe a year and a half, something like that, maybe 2 years actually. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brew By Numbers. This one was the 55 double IPA Mosaic and Nelson Sauvin 8.2% New England double IPA from Brew By Numbers in Bermondsey in London. Thanks again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Brew By Numbers, let me know your own thoughts on this beer, and let me know what your favourite ones are from Brew By Numbers as well in the comments section below. Slán you, skull, cheers, and catch you guys in the next review.